visualization or anything. It's just a bar chart where you can click on a subcategory to show the trend over time, or at least that's the instructions. The idea here is that if you have multiple of these visualizations and you would like to have more information, like I do if I click on the phones, you see that I get a trend line below here for phones, and I can deselect and go back again. So this is a technique where you have basically you have two visualizations inside of the same container to save space and real estate on a dashboard. So you can have multiple of these. You can obviously select multiple as well, and then look at more than one. But there's another thing in here that that is the tiny tip, or depending on. But if you pay attention, the chairs has 335,000, fasteners only 8,000. Often when you do this type of interactions where you filter or click on something, so if I click on bookcases, for example, bookcases would then the bar would extend and fill out the entire screen, and it will look like that it is as big as chairs, for example. But if you pay attention to this axis over here, 350K, this one is stuck regardless of whatever I select over here. So you see that labels is not that big, chairs is pretty big. And how do we do this? Let's go back to the sheet and have a look. You won't see it until you hover over. And now I've added the tooltip for this reference line because you probably wanted to see it. So there is a hidden reference line that shows us the fixed of the max sale, so that if there's new data coming in, maybe we are suddenly selling a whole lot of phones and we have 400,000 phones, this fixed max sales will be in here. Of course, I wouldn't have anything on tooltip when I publish this, so that you won't see it unless you basically click on it. And how do we do this max sales over here? And a quick tip as well, if you would like to search for something, Control+F, you end up directly in the search window over here. So you can start searching, so you don't have to click around. And then you can either filter by, I know that this is a calculation, but you can basically select any of these, and it will only show you the ones that are calculations, dimensions, etc. So if you look at my calculations in here, I have 3, and the fixed max sales looks like this. So we're going to edit this. And then, of course, Control plus the hole in that, while you use the scroll wheel on your mouse, or Control plus zooms in on the calculation window as well. So what we're doing in here, we're using a level of detail calculation, fixed subcategory. So for each and every subcategory, please find the sum of sales. So we find the sum of sales for all our subcategories, and then we put a max on top of that. So we'll always get the highest value. This is then the one I'm using as the reference line, hidden in the background. So we'll keep this this axis, instead of doing the thing that a lot of people do, right click, edit axis, and then you can go to a custom and say that the fixing the end to like 400,000 or something. Works great until you have a sale over 400,000 and the bar just stops basically, or continues outside of the screen. So let's go back to this one. So this works pretty fine. When you're doing, and I looked at what I presented at last year's Florida TUG, and there was a lot of stuff about documentation. So I'm not going to go through all this documentation, all these tips again. You can just watch the recording or find the workbook from last year. But one thing that I have found and realized since then is, of course, when you do a lot of these calculations and parameters, you can, of course, go into each and every one of them. Let me just go into one again. You can go and edit. You can then select this, copy paste it into some documentation tool, or you can right click and even do this describe, where you then get some information about the calculation and also the formula. Obviously, one thing that is missing in here that you always should do, that you should always do. So it's just like what I say to my kids: do as I say, not as I do. Remember to add in this date, and Tore has done this. Always document whatever you're doing. So this information will then be also in this describe field. Problem is, I can copy this, right click, look at all my calculations, and in any typical workbook, you might have 10 or 15 calculated fields, and you have to copy paste 10 or 15 times. So instead, you can go to something called the Tableau Data Dictionary, created by Marcelo Haas, which is free, available out there. So basically just a web page where you then go in, and I think that I had the web page in a URL in here somewhere as well, so I can put that into the no, I don't, but I guess Yamil, you can do that. Find this Tableau Data Dictionary, put it in the chat for people so they can bookmark
Okay.
it.
Yeah, I will look for it and put it there. Thank you.
Yeah. So what basically you do in here, you can either upload a TWB or a TWBX to this web page. You upload it, and then you click, please generate my documentation, like I've done down here in as an example. So it's reading a workbook, download a CSV, and it will look like this when you get it out afterwards. So basically a CSV where we have multiple data sources, if you have them. You have what type of column, the name of the column, the data type, the formula, and of course you should do, as I do in here, add in the documentation or comments. And then you get, is it a parameter, native field, or calculated field? This is a great way of saving a lot of time for documentation as well. Just remember to check with your data security people, or to if you're working at the customer or wherever you're working, even though there's no data that's uploaded to or stored anywhere, but just make sure that you don't do anything that you shouldn't be doing. Great tool. Thank you to Marcelo for this. Another quick tip of just checking out, what kind of data am I looking at? What kind of data do I have in my view? You can, of course, look at the data pane and look at your dimensions and measures down here. Sometimes it gets a bit messy because you have many fields in here. But as long as you just double click on the measure names, and I like to swap columns and rows, there's a shortcut over here. You can use Control+W. Then you can have the measure names, and then you have all your measure values in here. And you will see that Tableau is doing by default, or I've done that in my data source. What kind of aggregation should be default? Should it be count, sum? Should it be average or min or max? Then this is what you will be looking at on the right-hand side. So you can see that I have 10,000 rows of data. There's only 3 rows or 3 people, individual people in here in this count. And then I have 10,000 or 103,000 percent in discount. This obviously should have been maybe an average instead. So the average discount for my entire data set is 10. And now if I just do it in here on the green pill, then I need to do it every time I'm adding the discount. Instead, you can rather go to any field on the right-hand side in your data pane. You can go to change your default properties, and you can decide that the aggregation for every time I'm using discount should be average, meaning that if I now add in average again, discount, it says average in here, so it's average by default. I can obviously go in and change and look at maximum, minimum, whatever I like as well. So next tip, so that it's recorded. So if you feel that I'm talking a bit too fast, then you can watch the recording afterwards as well. I'm going to do some this in tooltip. So tooltips, they are here. They just basically are added as long as you put in a measure or a dimension, and they just list up there. It's a bit boring sometimes. So at least I like to go in and format a bit, maybe add this one a bit bigger. And I very often also write this as a text. So I could say for furniture, the sales in February was 75,000. And then it obviously will change when you move around. But what I'm going to do now as well, you might have done this before, but there's a couple of other tips and tricks in here for the Visin tooltip. I do have one with the subcategories, same colors as the main categories. I do have the top 10 sum of sales by state, and I have the top 10 profit, and I have one with just have a line in here. Looks a bit boring, but I'm going to use this. So my idea is that I'm going to go into my tooltip and then go to insert, and then you might have seen or might have used this, you can go into insert the sheet. This is called the Visin tooltip. And I'm going to add all of these ones. So how it's going to look like, the idea in my tooltip, let's say this is my tooltip. So I have the text over here. So I'm going to add the first one with the subcategories. That's going to go across the entire tooltip. And then the top 5 are going to go here. They're going to share the equal amount of space instead of having them above or below each other. So it takes up way more space. Also, if you remember the one with the line, I'm going to add in a line here, and I'm going to add in a line here just to make it a bit nicer. So how do I do that? Well, first of all, I start with the first one, which is the width 2. I'm going to make this a bit wider, so I'm going to make this 600. Let's have a look, see how it looks like. Now I have the subcategories in here. It looks pretty okay. Go back to tooltip, do line break, and then I'm going to put in my sheets, the top 5 ones. So number 3 and number 4. Brilliant names, right? Apparently I have 2 of them. Let's put this one in. Now you see that they're just in order in here. So the tip in here is to get rid of that line shift. So just press delete. Now these, both of them are 300 pixels wide. The other one, the one on top, is 600. So now we have them side by side. It looks a bit nicer, I think. And then I'm going to add in that line as well. So I can go to sheet, put in that number 5, make sure that that's 600, so it goes across the entire tooltip. And of course, it shouldn't be 300 height. 10 pixels is enough. And then I have this line. But I also would like to add it between the other visualizations. Problem now is that if I go in here and go to insert, width 5 is already grayed out, so I can't add it anymore. I could go back to my workbook, right click, duplicate, and add it again. But then I'm going to have multiple similar sheets. So I think that I'm more clever than Tableau. So what I realized that I can do, I can just copy this sheet from inside here, the one with the line, and paste it in here, and maybe even paste it over here. So even though I can't insert it, I can just copy paste. And now I have a nice little divider in the tooltip as well. And it's interactive and filtering on whatever whatever category I'm looking at as well. So this is a nice way of adding even more information to your visualizations. We're moving on, and something that I really love is to do shortcuts or on the keyboard to save time. I'm of course obviously using the mouse all the time, but there's a whole bunch of them out there available. I'm using some, not all, but I mentioned already Control plus plus, so Control and the plus, so you can zoom in the calculation window. If you do have a table like this, a short little table with some regions and some segments, for example, like this, and maybe some sales. Yeah, I can go back to, there was a question about the width 5. Basically, this is an empty one. There's nothing in here. There's only formatting. So there's added this this line. So the row divider is here. So could be that so it's the pane and the header. So it's we're only showing one of those lines, or they connected together. So this table looks pretty nice. It's okay. But sometimes you would like to increase the size of the table. You can start finding that sweet spot. Where does the hand change to an arrow like this? You could, of course, go to entire width, but that doesn't help when you're drilling down like this. Then everything is so messy. So instead of doing that, I'm using the control and the arrows. So if I do the arrows like this, you see that the table is increasing or decreasing like this. Or even using the control B, then I'm also increasing the size of the cells to find that sweet spot where sometimes if you have a dimension with a long name that you get those 3 dots, then you can use these shortcuts as well. And one thing that I really use a lot, because if you go on the right hand side here and say new worksheet, it ends up all the way in the back. Then you have to drag it all the way to the front, and maybe you have multiple sheets, and it's a bit of a hassle. You could, of course, always go down here to those three indicators over here where you can show a sheet sorter. You have all the different sheets in the view. So you can take this new sheet and drag it over to shortcuts, double click on it, and then you have it close to wherever you were doing anything and any analysis, for example. But the shortcut here is to press Control plus M, and then you will get it just next to the sheet where you're working. Documentation window, I showed that last year. So Control plus E, this is where you get a description of your sheet, quite detailed as well. You can copy paste that and use those documentation. Sometimes I use Control Tab to cycle through or Control Shift Tab to cycle back, especially instead of that trying to find that next one on the left hand side. You won't find it. You can always click on these small arrows, but sometimes it's even faster to use the shortcuts. And then the swap rows and columns, I showed that earlier. And then the last one that maybe you would like to look at the date. Sometimes you drag in a date, you right click, you find a specific one that you would like to, or you drill down like this, get rid of the quarter, and you were supposed to do the green date value in here for month, and then you continue like this. It takes not forever, but everybody would like to save some time, right? So if you right drag any dimension or measure instead of left dragging, so if I drag in order date, I get this drop field window or box, and then I have all the blue ones, I have all the green ones, and it will save you a lot of time. So let's go for the months over there. Maybe put that on top, get rid of the regions, and then we have the sales over time. If I do that, I will also look at the quantities, right drag it in, and then immediately I can select which kind of aggregation I would like to have, and maybe I would like to look at the averages. So that's a time saver as well. On dashboards, there's a couple of shortcuts. F7, for example, that means you zooming in, not zooming in, but going to presentation mode, same as this particular icon on the top right. If you would like to have a grid in the background, you see that there's a grid now, not now, now there is. So this is if you want that pixel perfect report and you need to find those pixels in there, just press the G button and then you get a grid. You can even go to dashboard and go to grid options and decide what kind of size should those grids be, if you like them bigger or smaller. And then I go a lot when I'm building stuff, going to the layout menu, figuring out should I do some padding, looking at the hierarchy, going back and forth between dashboard and layout. Worry no more, just press the T button and you go between dashboard and layout tab, as easy as that. And then the pixel perfect one, just select any sheet when it's floating and use the arrows to move them 1 pixel in any direction, or the shift and the arrows to move them 10 pixel in any direction. That's also a lifesaver sometimes if you need it to be on that specific place. And then I mentioned this Data plus Maps Tableau user group that is coming up, first time ever. Close to 200 people signed up so far, and the first one, which will be on the 28th next week, same time as today. So lunch and learn event there. Damola is going to come there. We're going to talk about his or spotlight him as a data fam member. So when we do that every time we do this user group, spotlight a data fam member that works a lot with maps. And then near Smigla will show his fantastic Roman Empire throughout the ages visualization, talk through that. And then Sarah Bartlett, visionary from the UK, she will talk about Iron Quest, where she's now doing a what is it called? A Iron Quest about maps, coincidentally with this one. So I put that link in the chat as well. So since we're starting this user group with the data plus maps, I'm going to show you some tips and tricks on maps as well. Starting with I'm a bit bored about the normal sample superstore because that's normally just US and Canada. Nothing wrong with you guys, I'm not saying that, but I live a bit more to the east, and there's more countries also over here. So I'm going to show you something from the EU Superstore dataset. And this is Norway, by the way. This is where I live. I'm going to show you even closer when I move on to the tips in here. But let's say you work for a company that you have some responsibilities for the North region, so these countries, or the West region could be these countries, and then the Central region, for example. And you don't have those location data over here. You might have them, just going to delete this one. So you might have them in the data, or you might not have them in the data. So we can do geographic grouping. I could just right click and create a group from here, but I like to do it more visually. So I go to the navigation window where you can either have the rectangle and zoom, you can pan around, you can do by default, the rectangular selection, you could do the radial, or my favorite, the lasso. So I'm doing lassoing to select specific countries. So let's select the Nordic countries over here, include Finland as well. And then on the tooltip, I can just use this group members, this paperclip. And what happens? Well, these turn in a different color. They got a really cool name, Denmark, Finland, Norway, and one more. We can change that afterwards. And then on the left-hand side, you see that in my data pane, I now have a new dimension, which has a globe and a paperclip. So this is a new group. I'll continue. I'll select this one over here and maybe these two. So I have the West. Just group it. It will then be added to the same one. And then we have the last countries in here. We can group these. And for some reason, nothing wrong with Netherlands, but I missed Netherlands in here. Then we can just right click on this new dimension, edit my group. And instead of having other, we can get Netherlands, either right click, do like this, or we can just drag and drop this into, get them together with the Austria, Belgium, and so on. Or maybe we can't, since it's, yeah, there we go. And then we can rename these. I'm not going to bother doing that now. Hopefully you know how to do this. Now I have multiple regions, and since I also have country, region on color, we have the individual countries in here. If I get rid of country, you see that I only have one color, so I can look at the sale for that entire region if I want. Put that on label. So this is the sales for this region. If I also add in the country on detail, I get the individual sale for each and every country as well. And the beauty of these, the change that has been there for quite some time though, but let me just add in my country regions again in here and make sure that we are looking at the map. And or maybe we should go for the countries first. So we have these ones and then put the country region on color. So I'm coloring like this. So I would like to keep these colors, but I would like to have individual information about countries, or maybe on cities as well. Because if you drill down like this, when you have a filled map, state works fine, but then on cities, I have multiple dots, but there's no filled map anymore. So let's go back to this level. And then we can take advantage of these multiple layers. So I can add a marks layer. So instead of just double clicking or putting into the marks card, I'm going to put it in here on marks layer. And this is really fun. You can do these exercises anytime you want, because I'm looking at EU Superstore, and I'm not sure if you know, but the capital of Norway is Oslo, and Oslo is not here, but it's over there. And this is because Tableau now has 993 unknowns, and Tableau, for some reason, is from the US, so it thinks that all countries in the world belongs to the US. And it says US in here. I could fix this and say Norway, but of course then the Norwegian cities would be where they should be. So this is not what I would like to do. If I was only looking at data for Norway, then it's fine. But Tableau knows that I have cities, and if I also add in my country, combine the country with the cities, you see that all the dots ends up where they should be, and we have Oslo over there, and we have Bergen over there. This is where I live. So now I have two layers, and I can just make these maybe a bit darker. I always like to make the opacity a bit see-through, especially when they're overlapping, and even maybe add a border. And then I can put sales on size, and the bigger the sale for any city, the bigger the circle. And now you see that the benefit of having these on color, this opacity, is that now France is might cover everything, or depending on the order, but when we zoom in and we have this opacity, it looks way better as well. Looks like I've missed Luxembourg, or maybe we didn't have any sale there. So this is multiple layers. You can add, of course, as many layers that you want in here when you start adding. This was a question at the newbies user group as well. How many layers can you have? And Tableau says unlimited. And I know people who almost tested this, and nobody has managed to hit that point of no return when everything is crashing. Sometimes as well, this is the default map. Maybe it's a bit boring because it's just gray in the background, but the point of data and Tableau is to help people see and understand data. So now it's fairly easy to see which circles are bigger and smaller, and we know that Norway is there, we know that Spain is down here. But you can always go to map on the menu on here and look at the background maps. You see that there's multiple built-in maps as well. So light is the default. If you are more a night person, you can do a dark map like this, or you can go to maybe an outdoor map, but then there's a lot more detail in the view. Do you really need all this detail? So that's up to your use case, of course. Do you need to look at the green part of Europe, or even nicer up here in Norway, where we have the snowy mountains as well? But do I really need to have these beautiful maps just to show that the sales in Bergen is £6,000? I don't know. So this is up to you, of course, the use case, and make sure that the data at least is visible in the view. There's also other options in here. Go to background maps. You see that you can add a Mapbox maps. Mapbox map. This is by default the ones that are, or Tableau is hosted on Mapbox maps in the background. So your own maps that you can have in the back, or you can add WMS maps as well. There's a lot of these that are free out there. I have a lot of customers that are not very interested in what's happening on land because they are oil and gas out here, or they work with fish or fishery. They're looking at current in the sea, or the sea levels and stuff like that. So they have their own WMS maps as well. So this is one example of one of those maps. I'm just going to put it into the chat. Not very nice map, I have to say, but if I go to map and then background layers on the left hand side over here, see that there's multiple layers. So I'm going to take away the original, the default one, and have a look at this one. Takes a bit time to load because it's free, it's out there somewhere, but maybe this is a nicer map, I don't know. But these ones are at least available for free, a lot of these out there, if you think that the standard maps are a bit boring. So we looked at the alternative maps in there. Another thing I would like to show, and now I'm just going to get rid of these the colors. So I'm just going to look at these, and I'm going to search for Bergen in Norway. This is where I live, not exactly downtown. I'm not sure if for what is called this GDPR. I'm not going to show you exactly where I live, but I live close to the airport. But one thing, if you'd like to figure out what is the latitude and longitude of downtown Bergen, or any data point that you have in your data, you can right click, you can annotate that specific point, where I can say Bergen, the home of the Jedi. And then the trick here now is to go to insert, because in here you have latitude and you have longitude in there. And if I now zoom out as well, you can then get the latitude, longitude for any data point in there. I guess it's even easier, or it's easier to just go to Google Street View or Google Maps or anything like that. But this is a quick tip as well. And then another tip about maps. A lot of time when I'm doing work, my day-to-day work, I'm not looking at data for necessarily entire Europe. I'm looking at data for Norway. So this is Norway. And I also do know that in Norway, we live in Norway. So if I go to my background layers in here, do I really need, by default, also the country names are on. You can turn these off, because if I'm looking at the map of Norway, I don't need to have a huge sign of this is Norway, because apparently I should know where I live. So I can take away these. I not necessarily need the state, province names or borders. You can do a lot of adjustments in here if you like. But even more annoying is those damn Swedes that we have on the right-hand side. We don't like the Swedes. The Swedes don't like us, so that's fine. I can say that. I'm from Norway. So why should I have Sweden in here? Why should we have Finland? Why should we have Russia when I'm only looking at data in Norway? So the easiest thing to do is to go to this map and background layers, and then go to washout, because now I have a filled map of Norway. So I filled Norway with blue, and then I take a washout to 100%. And now finally we got rid of Sweden. Now I only have Norway in here, and then I can go to my cities, put in that on a new layer, and of course make sure that I have country in here, otherwise we're in the States again. And then I have a Norwegian map, and I don't care about Sweden in here. Of course, maybe the background map don't necessarily need to be that dark blue. I can use a lighter color or make the opacity a bit less. So basically, I have the map, but what I'm interested in is looking at the sales for each and every city in here and put that on size, for example. So this is a way of getting rid of the other countries. They're still there somewhere. If I get rid of my filter, they are there, and of course the data for all the other cities are in here. So just remember to add that filter if you're only looking at one country at a time. And then can talk about a lot of politics, but this is not the place for that. But what if I would like to separate all these countries? I would like to look at one country at a time. Of course, I could do right-click, duplicate, and then the first one I could add a filter where I'm looking at Norway, and then I do the same on the next one. Then I'm looking at Sweden, then I'm looking at Denmark, put everything into a dashboard. That's a lot of work. So if I undo, go back to this one. If we just, now I've colored all the maps based on the sum of sales. I get rid of latitude, I get rid of longitude. Now we have a really beautiful, this is before the Ice Age, I think. Now I don't have the latitude, longitude, basically in the background where we normally, a map is just a scatter plot anyways. So we have latitude, longitude. Now I have all the unique countries, roughly the same size because, well, they fill in the same size. And then I can go to the size, I already increased the size, otherwise they're really small. And then I have the labels. I've added this in here as well. And then I can look at the different countries. They're now by default alphabetically. You could go in and right click and sort this. So maybe you would like to sort it by this is the sum of sales. So I'm just going to find the sales. And then from the least to the ascending or descending, depending on what is your focus. One tip here, though, if I get rid of the label and just add it again, country region on label, by default, it pops up in the middle, which is fine, but maybe you would like to get it a bit underneath. If I go to my label, go to this alignment tab in here, then I can go to horizontal and vertical like this, or maybe try to put it, you see that nothing happens in here. The only thing that works is the direction, but that you don't want to go to a chiropractor for the rest of your life looking at labels going vertical like this. So what you do, you go into the text box, the label, those three dots. I'm going to put it in the middle so we see that it's there. Then we're going to cheat a bit. So we're just going to add in some line shifts in here. Say apply, see how many you would like to need, or how many you need before they disappear out of the picture. That was a bit too much, so one less. Say apply, and you have the label roughly below all your countries. Now we have all in one view.
Tor, I have a question about this one. That one.
Yeah.
What use cases? I mean, a lot of people put it in the chat. Very cool, nice, awesome. What have you used this before? Like this when you separated the countries. Have you used it in your, I don't know, your daily work
No,
sometime or not? Never.
not on a control, but you know that if
Uh-huh.
you're doing this on if
Oh.
you do the if you no you know US, if you're looking at US, you have US, you have Alaska, and you have Hawaii, and it takes up a lot of space, and Canada is there, but nobody in the US
Mhm.
would like to have that in the map. So when I do this for if I now filter this for just for Norway again,
Mhm.
there's not that much data in here though, but there's different states in Norway.
Okay.
So instead of having Norway that takes up a lot,
Mhm.
it's so tall, takes up a lot of space. Then I do this, look at the different states like this.
Exactly.
I might even split them in two, so I have the top north of Norway. But
Mhm.
it's a bit easier to see them compared to each other when you do this sometimes.
So could you do that with the 50 states of the United States? Let's say could be right.
Yeah, I do have. If I do the sample of the use this one, we have the states over here. We're going to do
Mhm.
this map, and I'm going to get rid of the latitude and longitude and increase the size.
Mm.
But you see that
Mm.
I think that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 40 states in there in the view
Mhm.
at the moment. So if I increase the size, I get everything. So you need to find a sweet spot, or maybe you would like to, split east and west, for example. Then
Oh,
you then
okay.
you're able to do this as well.
Got it. Got it. Or like, yeah, they do a lot of here, like west, east, northwest. Like, and Aaron, do you have any thought about this? Have you done this? Aaron, I think you were already some. Oh, I'm gonna have to maybe give you a. No, that's fine. That's fine. No, but maybe he can talk at the end. Let me.
Yeah, you could do that. You have the regions in there, so you could filter based on the regions as well, right?
Okay.
I'm not sure what happens if I put region in here. Then you would, yeah, that would be. Let's see, that would be. Yeah, you can do it like this. So you have the central, east, south, west region,
Yes,
for
that's what I
example,
was just thinking. Yes, yes. Awesome.
or
That's pretty
or this
cool.
way,
Pretty cool.
this way around. Yeah, really nice
Oh wow.
states. We make it simple. We just have a. Why didn't everyone do like Colorado and Wyoming? Just those
Very
squares.
cool. Anybody have any question? Put it in the chat. Anybody, anyone, or if you like it, or like the any questions. Pretty cool. Thank you.
Yeah, but it's I guess it's more cool than practical maybe sometimes. That
Yes,
depends
yes,
a bit on the use case.
yes.
So we still have like 12 minutes or so. So I'm gonna go over to Oslo again, and I'm gonna rebuild this, but I'm just gonna show it how it looks like before we start. This is city bikes in Oslo, and then these are the starting stations we have. So every place where you can go and pick up a bike. I really love this one. Idiot. Idioten, it actually means idiot. I'm not sure why, but that's a place in Oslo. So if you ever go there, bring a friend. And then the idea of this is to look at where they start from one place, and then one trip goes to this particular end. It's 1131 meters, and the average time spent on a bike is 8.5 minutes. And the thicker the line, the more trips have been happening. So if I itself, it's a combination of two data sets. It's the districts of Oslo, basically these. These are the different districts. And then I have the city data where I have the start station, the end station, and by default in the data set is the start and end latitude, longitude like this. So of course, there's no problem to look at the end station like this, and then put in the end station name, and I have all the different end stations. But I need to connect these with the start station. I need to figure out the length, the distance, the path, and everything not the direct path where you're going with the bike, but if you were flying those bikes. So then we need to do some calculations, and I've done multiple calculations in here. And Tableau does a lot of these calculations. There's a lot of these spatial calculations available. So for the start, let's have a look at that first. Basically, I have the latitude and longitude, but I'm going to make a point. And the make point takes the latitude, longitude, and then you find that specific point, because then I can put it on a map and I can have multiple layers in the view as well. So if I now double click on my start station like this, I'm just going to get rid of everything and start again. Start station, there they are. And Tableau generates the latitude, longitude like this. End station, exactly the same, just find the map, the make point. I'll put this on a new one. They should overlap, obviously, because it's the same stations, unless somebody never started from a station and then went to those stations. So I have two layers in here now, and then we could put in we're going to the path first. I'm just going to do edit in here, and then we're going to show you on the right hand side we have these spatial calculations. I'm not using all of them now, but we can generate an area, a buffer, the distance that I'm using, if there's any intersects, the length, make line, make point, outline, so the kind of a shape, the shape type there, and then validate. So there's a lot of these, and Tableau has added a lot of these over time. Just click on these and then you get an explanation and the next right hand side. This is a quick tip in general when you're doing calculations. Always remember to have this window open to have a look. So the make line is going from the start to the end station, basically, which is clever enough. Dragging this as a layer. Just wait a bit, and now you're creating a beautiful, beautiful art that you can use for whatever you like. Since we have so many stations and so many potential connections in here, it looks really messy. That's why you should, of course, add in a filter for the start station name, which I did before as well. I'm just going to add in this for a single value. Drop the slider, sorry, and just look at one at a time. So now I have all of these, but you also see that when whatever I select in here, it's basically selecting all of them at once. And this is because of the different marks, the marks layer you have in there. So if I'm only interested in the one with the path, I should take the end station, click on this triangle. Whenever there's a triangle in Tableau, always click on it because there's a menu. So I'm going to disable the selection for the end station. So still, it's a problem because I also have the start station in here. Disable the selection. Now you see that still it's a bit problematic because I would like to have the start station name in here as a detail, because then I have one in here. Or did I miss something? Yeah, I probably missed something. Let's get back to that soon. We also would like to look at the distance. The distance is even easier. You have the distance from something to something, and then in whatever metric you would like to. I'm from Norway or Europe, so we do meters. Over there, you do, was it sticks and stones and feet and I don't know, some kind of weird stuff you're doing over there. You can do that as well. You can do miles and all kinds of stuff. I'm doing meters because that's what normal people do. And then I'm going to add in the trip duration, and that's basically just a field that's part of my data. This duration in seconds. I'm going to divide it by 60 to get per minute. So I'm going to put that also on the tooltip. And since I've been cheating a bit, as you've seen, I've modified the tooltip a bit in here, where I'm looking at the start station, looking at number of trips to the end station, the distance, and the trip duration. If I say cancel in there, hover over, then you get this information, and you get it for each and every line that you have in the view. I did even add in, just for the fun of it, the end station latitude, longitude as a layer and the name. and then put in a shape so that you might see that over there. Going to increase that a bit. Just put in some bikes in there as well. Just for the fun of it. Does it make the visualization better? I don't know, but it looks fun. And then you can have a look at from the idiot, see how that there's one data set for 1800 meters. It spent 13 minutes on the bike. And if you like, I don't think that it works with this data. I'm just going to check. No, it doesn't work with data. It works with another data, which I can do for the last few minutes. And this is this beautiful map in here that I'm going to clean out, because this is the, in Oslo, we're riding bikes and there's rat sightings. It's a really nice data set. So if we look at the latitude, longitude in here, we just get one dot. And I'm going to go to analysis. This is another tip as well. Everything in Tableau is aggregated. That's why when you drag in a measure, sum or average or min or max. But if I now go to analysis and disaggregate, this one dot now turns into 113,000 marks. 130,000 rats found in New York over time. I have to say it's over multiple years, but it's not that easy to see which one multiple dots. You can of course select a few, look at the tooltip. You see that in this area there's 5,800 items selected. But if you go to the marks card, go from automatic, you can select density. And I think that blue color, looking at maps, is not the right color, because this is really horrific. So I'm going to go for this red dark instead, make the intensity like this. And we see that some place, if I zoom in a bit, have more rats than others. Apparently, in the Central Park, all the squirrels eat the rats. I don't know, but there's apparently no rats in there. And in this one, you could also do, we have the date in here. When was this added? I think it's the due date or something. If you drag the due date to pages, I'm not sure if you used pages before, but pages, this is where you can run some animation or data over time. So on the right-hand side now, I get the year of the due date, and then, well, there's some null data in here. We don't care about that, but if I press play on tape, you can see from 2008 and see the number of rats and how the rat sightings have been in different places over time. And now we can actually feel the rats moving around as well here. So I didn't see that many when I was in New York last year, but this is also a nice way of showing a lot of data in or data points in one view as well, using this density in there. And to end it all with a fun fact, the brown rat, the most common rat, is the Latin name is Rattus norvegicus, something we're really proud of from Norway. So this I think concludes the session of today, since we have 2 minutes left for questions, comments.
If you have more, we're okay extending it. We don't mind. So if you have anything else you want to show, show it. Yeah, we don't mind. We have extended some 20 minutes, 30 minutes, doesn't matter. Whatever you want to show us. Yeah, we're
I can continue for 3 hours if you like, but
but if you have a little bit more that you wanted to share, I'm more than happy. Yeah, of course. People love this type of
yeah,
conversation.
I mentioned a bit on the navigation in the map. So if I go back to just one map in here, like this, you have this map options. If you right click, you can get rid of this view toolbar. If you don't want your end user to zoom in or move around in the map, they can still search. But as long as you have it in there, you can zoom plus minus, or you can use the different ones. And this one is nice because it zooms into a specific area. Then you have the default one. It's just selecting something. You have the radial one, depending on, haven't still found the specific data point where, or zoom level, where you see that now. Suddenly you can see how many kilometers are there from Stockport to Sheffield, or inside, how many customers do we have inside of a special area like this. And then My favorite, of course, is the lasso, where you can select, and maybe for me as a supporter, we can exclude Manchester over here because I don't like that team. And then still going to the map options, you can then decide what should the end user be allowed to. So the map search you can turn off. The layout controls, if you have multiple layers, you can allow them to turn on and off multiple layers if they want. And you can take away this view and PAM, etc. And then what is the map scale? But if you do it by automatic, it will of course follow your setup on your laptop. But you can decide to do metric or US or not hardcode, but select that as well into the view. And one thing that people find a bit annoying, I see when I do a lot of training, and then I click on a map like this and they start to move around, but the map doesn't move like you do in Google or Bing or anything like this. But just be patient. If you click the button, you see that the arrow changes to a intersection or a cross, and then you can move around like this. So if you just drag and drop, then it follows along with the whatever you select up here. If you just wait half a second when you click, then you can pan like this. And if you get stuck, like a lot of people do as well, they end up, okay, I didn't have any data in Iceland. How can I get back? Then you will see that this pin, there's an X, and you also see it up here. That also happens with any type of visualization that you're looking at. You can do that even if I go to this one, I can zoom into my my data. You see that now it's zoomed so much in on the axis. You see this pin. I can just then get rid of the axis range in here and zoom back out. Then I was thinking if I had more time, but since it's past, well, 7, I don't know, 1 o'clock your time, maybe talk about dates or something. But we can do that maybe in a year when we can do this again once every August. Then I can talk about how
Yeah.
to use dates in Tableau as well.
Thank you so much. Anybody have any questions? Aaron, do you have any questions? Anything you wanted to
Yeah,
ask?
I got two things.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so you had mentioned like when before all this, you were talking about how something was cool, but it wasn't necessarily practical. I think that's absolutely okay. Practicing these outside the box things get you more familiar with what the tool can do. Get you more experience doing different techniques, and you may not be able to do one-on-one with these tricks to what you do in your job, but it gets you a different way to think on how to do something outside of the defaults that Tableau gives you. So there are a lot of cool things out there in Tableau Public that are worth trying, even if you can't apply it to your job, because it does expand your knowledge. So I definitely want to encourage people to continue to do that. The one question I had was, I know for the longest time that pages animation didn't work on Tableau server or public. Do you know if that's available out there now, or if it's still just within the desktop where that feature works?
It's been working on server for a long time, but the problem has been that you had to click one, or for every year or quarter or whatever you have for your date in there. So that should be now available on server and public as well. So when you click it, it basically starts and it continues automatically like this.
Okay, so out on Tableau Public, you can just click the play button and it will do it itself. You don't need to click anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Thanks.
And as you said, when it comes to these, what you can do with Tableau, and when Tableau thinks about like the layers, for example, when they started doing the multiple layers on maps, a map is just a scatter plot with X and Y, or a latitude, longitude instead of X and Y dots. And then you saw people hacking and making multiple layers on on KPIs or on dashboards or on visualizations as well. So it's really fun to do that. And same with the bike data set in here. I mean, there's no problem if you want to break Tableau or to make something that is that looks like art, and then try to figure out, okay, what can I do about this? Well, I need to do something else, but It looks like fireworks, right? But just
Yeah.
see if you can crack Tableau as well, and you learn a lot out of it as well when you realize that there's stuff that you can do. Yeah, it's pretty slow on Tableau public races, but it works a bit, but it's not exactly the same. But
Oh,
also
race.
that also depends a bit on the if we go over to which one was it, the rat map in here. Over here go to the format and the animation. So depending on the duration you have in here as well, the slower you put it in here, the slower the animation combined with whatever speed you put on this one as well.
That's interesting. I didn't know that would combine. That's good to know.
Because this one has the speed of the
Animation.
the years, and then you have the animation over here as well. So if you speed this
Okay.
one a bit up and then press on this one, so it's yeah, you see that it goes a lot
And
faster now, right?
and I think if you click on the little three squares on the right, they also make it faster, right? Yeah, you see it says
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so this is the how fast it goes from year to year, or whatever date you have in there, or whatever else. You can have a dimension as well. But
Hmm.
then, even though this one is on fast, but I put this one on slow, so it still needs to do the animation, but it goes quickly from 2008 to 2009. But it waits till the animation is done. You see that the color is moving really slow, and now it takes 2 seconds, and then
I see.
quickly go to next year, and then it takes 2 seconds.
Got it. Very good. Very cool. Very cool.
But this
Anybody have?
this is this
Yeah,
as well. I mean, pages is also a cool feature. Animation is cool, but it you need to have data that makes sense. If you're looking
that's
at hurricanes or something like that that actually are moving over time, then it's okay. If you're looking at how much sale you have in different cities over time, it's really difficult for the brain to remember the length or the intensity of the color from one year to another. The rat sightings, it actually looks pretty okay, and disturbing, of course, looking at the number of rats.
that's it. No more pizza, New York style pizza. So, um, thank you. No, thank you so much. Anybody have any other question? Aaron, do you have any other question? Ray, anybody out there have any other question for Tor? He's here. You know, take advantage. Any other question? Anybody? Very good. So I don't see any other question in the chat, or I know there's all it's late over there where you at. I just wanted to say thank you again. Please, data plus maps. This is what day specifically? I'm trying to look at the date. What day is it?
28th.
28. Okay, we will be there for sure.
I'll
28.
put it
What
in here.
time? What time at 28?
It's the same time as this one, so six o'clock Norwegian time. So was it
Oh,
12 your time?
12. Yes. 12. Oh, you're
Yeah,
gonna get more than 200 people there. I see a 186 already. That's awesome. Yes, for
yeah.
sure. We
So
will
this is
be
going to be
there
really
the
fun.
28. That's awesome. Great. Oh me, I think they're amazing, amazing speakers, for sure. So we will be there. Thank you again, Tor. Again next year. We'll hopefully see you again next year at the conference, but also here, invited for us every year at Agos. That sounds like a good time. And just make it, put it in a calendar already. But no, for sure, no, we will talk. We will talk in the conference. And thank you everybody for being here again. And we will meet next month, September 18, same time, lunch and learn. And again, I hope that everyone have a wonderful rest of the weekend, and I will see you all next month. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tor. Have a
Thank you.
good night over there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye, everyone. Thank you.